Okay, I had a lot of questions about how I turn this wonderful rat's nest of cables into a synchronized tap tempo via Midi using the Microcosm as the master clock. And it's pretty easy if you have the right tools, because the Microcosm does actually send out MIDI clock if you set it up that way. And just real quick, the MIDI signal has no effect on the sound, on the audio path. So you'll see, like, my audio path, it's kind of weird. Just disregard the drive channel because that goes into my computer. Oh, we don't have to disregard, I'll tell you. So I've got my G&L right here, my ASAP Blues Boy, running into my barber tone press, coming then into this Montreal Assembly 2 positive, into my wonderful little volume pedal, and that goes into my computer because I'm running the Benson preamp and the VST from Mixwave, and then that comes back out, and then it's going into the habit, and so audio path goes habit, mono in, mono out, into the LVX, mono in on the back, and then stereo out, going into the mood, stereo in, stereo out, to the Microcosm, stereo in, stereo out to the Volante by Strymon, and then stereo out. And it's actually going to the rest of my board, which is literally under a pile of cables, so I won't show it to you, but it's just running into the Strymon Night Sky, and then back into my DAW to record. So I'm recording audio. The audio here is being recorded into GarageBand. It still works to do this, and then so that's that. Now my MIDI path is completely different, and MIDI doesn't have to have any kind of direction when it comes to your audio path. It's completely separate. So the way that that works is you have to do the MIDI out of the control device, and so this instance it's the Microcosm. I'm going to keep saying microclock because that's fun. So the Microcosm out, and then I have it running. Here, I'll show you. So MIDI out through the out port, and then I have that running into this disaster area designs MIDI box 4, and it's going into the MIDI in port and then coming out the MIDI through port. And we'll pause right there. The MIDI box 4 actually allows me to take TRS cables out to both the habit and then another one to the Chase Bliss mood here, because they have TRS ins for MIDI. And the MIDI box 4 can allow you to do, let's see, a ring active for Chase Bliss audio via these dip switches here on 4 channels. You can also do a tip active, tip and ring active, and TRS MIDI, just based on whatever pedal you're using. But TRS MIDI is only pretty much an in for this one, so like you go in, come into the habit, out of that. So let me back up. MIDI out from the Microcosm, running into the MIDI box 4 by Disaster Area Designs. It's then splitting the signal, running into the habit on one, into the mood on the other, but it's also coming out the through here, and I have that through going into the in of the LVX, and then out into the out of the LVX, MIDI out into the MIDI in of the Volante, and so then it's all synced up together. So when you actually hit the tap tempo here, you'll notice this. The way you can tell really well is the lights on this guy here change. So now how do you do all that? Once you get it connected, how do you get these all to be set up right? So I can tell you pretty quick and easy, the Chase Bliss stuff is set to receive MIDI clocks, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to turn this down because all those blinky knobbies, lighties get to me, distract me. So on the Microcosm, you have to set it up in the global configuration. So you hold down this shift selector and the phrase looper for 2 seconds, and then everything starts dancing and blinking. You get all these little lights. On this particular setup, for the Microcosm, you just turn the filter knob, and then that tells the Microcosm that you're wanting to change your MIDI clock configurations. So specifically to do MIDI out clock out, you want to either be on number 1 or number 3 of these 4. And you can select that by this selector switch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I do 1. It's just, I think that still sends any other MIDI controls coming into it out. I don't have anything going in, but that's what I do. Once you have that selected, you just hit the selector switch again. It then blinks, and it now stays white, so that tells you that it is now going to send out, send that out. So hit then the on-off switch to get out of the globals. For the Volante, you actually can save that MIDI clock receiving separate for each actual individual favorite, as well as the on, like the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. So the way you can switch the Volante to receive MIDI clock is by holding feedback buttons 1 and 4, and then while doing that, turn the recording level knob. You'll see this turns red. That's default, and that says it does not receive MIDI clock. You then turn it till it's green. There you go, release, and then now it's going to receive it. And there you can see it change, right? Yeah, you can see it change. Also, real quick, the Microcosm can the time knob adjusts like the BPM you're sending or the tempo you're sending, so you don't have to always do that. Very annoying if you're just making a tutorial video like this. Whatever. Okay, and so then the LVX, you hit this main button that is kind of like gets you to the menu button, and then you scroll back on the globals. So particularly with MIDI clock, it doesn't really need to worry about what MIDI channel you're looking at. It kind of sends it to all 16 at once. This I think is defaulted to look at MIDI channel 2. That's more for program changes and CCs. So don't really worry about that. Do make sure that, sorry, I'm pointing the wrong thing here, the MIDI out, which is there, you want to make sure that's on through. So that means anything coming in on your MIDI in is going back out. If you're using the LVX kind of in the middle of your MIDI chain. And so once you can do that, that says MIDI out, which means it's going to go out, but not through. So MIDI out through is what you want. If it's just set to out, then anything coming in won't be sent back out. It'll only send out, which I know like Maris has a ways of sending PC changes and changing PCs or program changes that you can send out to other stuff. But in this case, for clock, we're actually wanting it to through. So yeah, that's that. I don't think you go over here. This is more of like your global tempo selections, and that doesn't really have to do with the MIDI on this particular thing. So yeah, so that's good. You usually hit that again to make sure you're set. So now the blinking lights, which on all of these pedals show us the tempo, would be here, 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 and here. They should all start changing together. They may actually like blink not in perfect synchronization because they're receiving the like microseconds at not the same time. The command for the clock, but it is the same clock. So yeah, hope that helps. Ask any questions you want. Make sure to like and subscribe. Yada yada yada.